Hi, Timothy Carlson here. I always love me a good Western, and Paramount Presents previously put out the epic Sergio Leone Western Once Upon a Time in the West as part of that line. But now they've given us a later unlimited reissue of the movie, so that's what we're looking at today. Again, this is Once Upon a Time in the West in 4K from Paramount. I'm going to unbox this release and share my opinions. Great close-up there of our main characters. Spine text, back cover. The art is basically the same underneath the slipcover. We get a digital code of the film. Here we get the movie in 4K Ultra High Def, and on Blu-ray we get the feature film as well as some bonus features. Set in the dying days of the Old West, a struggle to control water in a dusty desert town embroils three hard-bitten gunmen in an epic clash of greed, honor, and revenge. One of the most iconic and influential movies ever made, Sergio Leone's monumental epic is presented here in 4K Ultra High Def from restoration off of the original camera negative by Paramount's archive team, L'Immagine Ritrovata, and the Film Foundation. Special thanks to Martin Scorsese for his consultation on this restoration. After completing the Dollars trilogy starring Clint Eastwood, Sergio Leone had no interest in working on westerns again, but ultimately was coerced to do one more, and that movie, of course, became Once Upon a Time in the West, which would go on to be one of his defining works. This film, of course, is set in the latter days of the Old West, and it's clear from the get-go this is going to be a pretty dark and disturbing story. Unlike a lot of westerns, even women and children aren't safe this time around. One of the biggest things about this movie that jumps out at me is the casting of Henry Fonda. Henry Fonda was always Hollywood's golden boy, always playing just an angelic man who was always kind-hearted, jovial, and filled any role like that with grace. Did you know there was a movie where Henry Fonda played a villain? Fonda was cast against type here as the prime protagonist of Once Upon a Time in the West, and surprisingly, he plays this part exceptionally well. Casting against type doesn't always work, but in this case, Sergio Leone certainly knew what he was doing. The screenplay for the film was co-written by Bernardo Bertolucci, the man who'd go on to direct films like Last Tango in Paris and The Last Emperor. And the cast is rounded out by a who's who of fantastic actors, including Jason Robards, Charles Bronson, Keenan Wynn, and even Woody Strode. Some of these are essentially guest appearances, but it's great to see that Sergio Leone was able to bring so much talent together. The cinematography is absolutely gorgeous, something that's always true of Sergio Leone's films. And of course, Ennio Morricone, who had previously scored the Dollars trilogy, also scored this film, which further adds to the Western atmosphere. Now, I do have to say, I think this is a good film. I don't think it's a great film that's in the same echelon as the Dollars trilogy, but I do have to agree with some of the criticisms out there that this movie's perhaps a bit overlong, overplotted, and convoluted, particularly as you get into the latter half of the film. And I admit this one did have a harder time keeping my attention than the films of the Dollars trilogy. This is a beautifully made, beautifully shot, beautifully scored film, and the performances are second to none. But again, the narrative is a little sloppy, and you do get to a point where it is hard to keep up with everything that's going on. I definitely like this film. It's an ensemble cast, and they try to give everyone a character arc, and it just doesn't quite work. That's not to say I don't like this film, though. It is Sergio Leone doing what he does best, and for the most part, succeeding. Sadly, the picture quality on this release is not the best. This does look like it's been processed or noise reduced in some way. As is, it looks decent, but it's not going to be the kind of movie that's going to be a stunner for your home theater or a demo disc. The Blu-ray disc does have several bonus features, including commentary tracks, a featurette with Leonard Maltin, theatrical trailer, production gallery, one about the locations, and a featurette involving the railroad of the era, which of course is a plot point in the film. So it is a pretty nice supplement package on that Blu-ray disc. Again, I do have somewhat mixed feelings about Once Upon a Time in the West, but I do like the film overall. Certainly not Sergio Leone's best work, but one that I think the guy can be proud of, with some great performances, cinematography, and a fantastic musical score. So I can recommend this one to any fan of westerns. Are you a fan of Once Upon a Time in the West? Where would you rank this in the Sergio Leone filmography? Do you think it's better than the Clint Eastwood Dollars trilogy? Worse than the Dollars trilogy? Better or worse than the films he made after this? Comment down below and let me know what you think. Also, Remember to subscribe to this channel for more content. I'm always posting new videos. And make sure you give this one a like if you found it helpful. I'm Taylor T. Carlson. I'll see you next time.